welcome to the Sabljic estate and to my Commonplace vlog. Today we are talking about Basilikon Doron and the concept of Sprezzatura. Oh, one of the most incredible words ever invented, ever conceived by someone, and reason number 1703 why everything Italian essentially rules the world and improves your life by that much. Anyway, humor me. Let's do this. With True Law of Free Monarchies, just a little bit of a recap. It's a pretty angsty text, really. King James is really grappling with his own legitimacy to rule, coupled with his divine right to rule that has been set out for him and established by a higher power, and his ability to really assert that power over his subjects. So now we come to Basilikon Doron, which is basically kind of a handbook of sorts about how to be a king to his son that he is handing down. And not only is he handing down his kingly advice from years of experience, but he's also handing down his angst as a ruler and his ability to rule and his legitimacy as a ruler and his ability to assert that power over his people. Within Basilikon Doron, one of the major themes that pops up, and what really stood out for me, is the notion of performativity as a king. The king as a performer on the largest stage possible. And in terms of performing kingliness, that balance between your inner and outer self, not allowing your subjects, who you're asserting your divine power over, to really crack that outer artifice that you've created for yourself. There's a really interesting dynamic going on throughout this entire thing. The king is trying to subject his people to his power, but at the same time his people are subjecting him to their gaze, and their unflinching gaze and their undying attention, really. So in turn the king must constantly reinvent and reassert this notion of kingliness, this outer artifice that he's created for himself. So he's performing as a king, and in that performance he is representing kingliness. So thus his performance must be incredibly carefully calculated, which brings us to the concept of sprezzatura. This wonderful, delicious Italian word that just rolls off your tongue, especially if you know how to roll your R's. Very important skill. Sprezzatura is basically, or what it basically means is effortless grace. In displaying sprezzatura, you are performing incredible feats and demonstrating a vast array of knowledge and many different subject areas and expertises. Is that even a word? Expertises? You're basically performing all these incredible feats and great tasks of skill and strength and intellect without outwardly displaying it. You have to keep that kind of inner struggle to be so incredible and amazing all the time from really showing on your face and your outer countenance to your people. To really, not show that you're trying. To be nonchalant, I guess, is the best way of describing it. Kind of like my nonna, for example.
Teacher.
See? Unflappable in all situations. The king in Basilikon Doron, as King James is kind of articulating to his son, the king acquires a sort of textuality. The king is something that is read and consumed actively and constantly under interpretation by the public, which definitely is cause for worry if you're attempting to maintain your hold on power and to project a certain air, a certain nonchalance, a certain sprezzatura, as we've said. When you're constantly being reinterpreted by this public, within the media, within the public, especially at the rate that we consume things and the rate at which things are available thanks to the internet, we're constantly laying siege to these outer artifices that are being created, these projections, these images. We're constantly attacking them and reinterpreting them and seeing them as we want to see them, really. So it constantly creates the need to really continually redesigning them and reasserting these things in order to keep that hierarchical power structure intact, in order to keep governments on top, or in order to keep celebrities from losing their luster, from losing that certain mystique that they carry with them, that unattainable essence that we common folk just can't quite grasp. If you take away all of that, what do you really have? It's sort of like in The Wizard of Oz, when Toto, I think it's Toto, that mischievous little mutt, rips back the curtain and reveals the feeble old man behind the controls, creating the massive projection of the wizard that, frightened and terrified them so much. Within Basilikon Doron, it's kind of the same thing. King James is constantly reminding his son that he's always under interpretation, and to control himself to the tightest possible extent in virtually every aspect of his life, in his ability to reason, in his discourse, in his outer comportment, in his dress, in what he eats. I mean, literally every aspect of his daily life, his eating, sleeping, excreting, is covered here. And just one false move, you get the sense that just one false move is more than enough to completely topple these notions and this image you're projecting and this representation of kingliness. That's my spiel this week. Tune in soon to hear some more of my English ramblings. Ta-ta.